What's up guys, Noor here and welcome to Book of Showtime Chapter 30. As always, if you guys have a topic you'd like me to cover for Book of Showtime, be sure to leave it in the comment section down below or anywhere you can reach me on social media or the Book of Showtime Discord. The New York Mets, they have been historically disappointing in 2023. Fresh off an 100-win campaign that saw them fall in 3 games to San Diego in the wild card, Mets owner Steve Cohen went out and spent big. His splash of moves included acquiring Japanese ace Kodai Senga and 2020 AL Cy Young winner Justin Verlander, while retaining the likes of Edwin Diaz and Brandon Nimmo to contracts north of $100 million, among other moves that saw the Mets field the largest payroll in baseball, and it's not even close, with a massive $76 million figure separating them and the second-place Yankees. Though there are still some holes at the DH position and we had a lot of unknowns as far as health of our rotation and some of our unknown younger bats, this was still a team on paper that was every bit as good as the year prior. But now here we are with the Mets well under 500, with the bulk of our players shipped off to greener pastures and with a lot of questions about where it really went wrong for a team that was such a heavy favorite to win the World Series. Well, we can look at the bulk of position players who are underperforming, like Jeff McNeil, and when healthy, which he hasn't been most of this year, Starling Marte. We can look at the bullpen, which hasn't been too solid with leads this season, which is only going to get worse after trading David Robertson. We can put all the blame on the front office for not doing enough this offseason, or we can point the finger at Buck Showalter, whose lineup construction has been very suspect at times. They brought up Vientos earlier in the season just for him to kind of waste away on the bench. But me personally, I think that this season can be attributed to 3 major events that happened before the Mets even began the season down in Miami. Let's start with the one that still stings to this day and will forever sting, and that's letting Jacob deGrom walk in free agency. Losing deGrom was heartbreaking for every single Mets fan, no matter old or young, new, whatever. Everybody in New York felt this. The 2-time Cy Young winner carried this team through mediocrity with his electric arsenal of pitches and his tremendous class and character off the field. In fact, that's what made me such a Jacob deGrom fan. When we had our Fireball 5 rotation, you had Harvey, Syndergaard, Madsen, Wheeler. They all got bit with injuries, to start with. Then you had all the drama off the field with Harvey and his ego. Same thing with Syndergaard. He had ego too. You had Steven Matz just being very ineffective at times. And then Zach Wheeler, whose health was... he didn't pitch for a very long time, and in hindsight, the Mets should have kept him, even though we all thought at the time that the Phillies massively overpaid because, look, he basically had 2 good second halves. He didn't have 2 good years. He had 2 good second halves, so we didn't really know what was going to happen with Wheeler, but like I said, hindsight is 2020. But through all that, through all the drama, the injuries, poor play, we had one consistent anchor, and that was Jacob deGrom. Well, until 2021, where the health issue started, but, in 2021, Jacob deGrom, he was on pace for probably the best season of all time for a starting pitcher. He was as lights out as you can get. For a franchise that's always kind of been about the starting pitching, he was amazing. And he was our homegrown guy. He was the face of this franchise. And I said for months after he wasn't extended prior to the start of the 2022 season, if the Mets somehow fail to retain the best pitcher in baseball, a guy that's been in the organization for 12 years, it would be the biggest loss for this franchise under Steve Cohen. It would be his first major loss. He's had some boo-boos, but this is just something that you cannot recover from. I know Jake's health has been a red flag the last 2 seasons, but when he's healthy, he's someone you want when you're competing for a world championship, especially, once again, your homegrown star. deGrom going to Texas, that sent shockwaves all throughout Flushing, from the Mets, from the fans, the owners, the players. Everybody felt that. You're not only losing a tremendous talent, but also a leader. He's been around for a long time, and that's a guy that I'm pretty sure a lot of players were going up to, looking for advice, looking for leadership. I think the shadow of this decision loomed large over the Mets this year. deGrom, he joins a long lineage of Mets that didn't finish their career in Flushing. In fact, all the all-time greats in this storied franchise weren't Mets for life. You look at all our retired numbers. We traded for Piazza. We traded for Hernandez. We let Seaver go. We let Kuzma go. We let Jose Reyes go. We let everybody go. David Wright's been the only Met that was a Met for life, but then obviously he got bit by injuries bad and had to retire early. So I guess you die a Met, or you live long enough to see yourself in another team's jersey. The second major event was the entire exhausting Carlos Correa saga. That was such tomfoolery. Initially, the 2017 World Champion agreed to a deal on December 15th with the San Francisco Giants for a 13-year contract worth $350 million, which was huge, but it's also quite the overpay for a guy that I don't even think finished top 10 in MVP voting once in his career. I might have to go fact check that before it comes out, but he's not worth that contract. But prior to the press conference to announce Correa, 5 days later, the Giants, they saw a red flag with his medicals and the deal fell through. Following day, the Mets would strike a deal with Correa for 12 years and $315 million. This is all after getting Senga, retaining Nimmo, getting Verlander. After all those big moves, this was one more final massive move. But the Mets would also find the same issues with Correa's health. There would be this long-winded negotiation process before Correa would just eventually return to the Minnesota Twins on a 6-year, $200 million deal on January 11th. This was just embarrassing as a fan to see, and it should be embarrassing for the front office too. Steve Cohen said on record, "We needed one more thing and this is it," when referring to the deal initially. And now you don't have that one more thing. So how does that look to the media, to the fans, and also the players? I don't want to drum up anything. I don't want to try to insinuate that something is wrong in the clubhouse, but you have to at least ponder what was going through the players' minds first after losing to DeGrom and now fumbling a potential star like Correa. Now, once again, hindsight is 2020, and thank Allah we did not sign him, because that would have been bad on our part. But who knows though? He's having a bad year, but maybe coming back to play on a contender would have revived him. Finally, the last preseason domino of pain to fall. Our star closer, the best relief pitcher in baseball, Edwin Diaz, gets hurt celebrating in the World Baseball Classic. Not pitching, not fielding, celebrating, which was just terrible on so many levels. This sparked a huge debate about whether or not the World Baseball Classic game should be played before the season, or even at all. Everyone was going back and forth on Twitter, on the radio, on the news shows about, should we do this World Baseball Classic? Should MLB players be participating in it? Should it be at the end of the season? Should it be in November? This, that, and the other. But then Gavin Lux goes out and tears his ACL in spring training. So are we going to abolish spring training too? It happens. Injuries are a part of sports. And the way it happened with Diaz celebrating with, Team Puerto Rico, that did hurt. It was just a terrible, you can't help but feel for Diaz. The World Baseball Classic is a huge deal for a lot of the international players. It really is. And that's why I love it. You see all these cultures coming together. And I would never be mad at someone for representing their country, for their sport. That's huge to them. All the emotions, though, stemming from losing the best closer in baseball for basically all of 2023, which Diaz, if you're watching, don't come back. It's not worth it. Nothing's happening. If we were in the thick of it, then yeah, I would say rush to come back. But we're not going anywhere. Just rehab, brother. I think that this was the darkest shadow of them all, though. We all knew this team would be fine with or without Correa. We would have liked to have him. He'd probably be better than Vogelbach. We replaced DeGrom with Verlander, which I know Verlander was old, but he's coming off probably his best pitch season. He was Cy Young last year. So we're not really losing anything in DeGrom as far as a player is concerned. But this one, Diaz getting hurt, we all had our hearts ripped out right before we took the field for opening day. Now, no matter what, these are still professionals. They get paid millions of dollars for a reason, and it really just boils down to this. The Mets are bad. They're very, very bad. They're no good. They're terrible. They stink. And at the end of the day, there's no excuse for poor performance. Nobody is going to feel sorry for you. So now we just got to look ahead to 2024 and just say, hey, listen, we're still a good team. Let's go out and put everything together. And hopefully this time next year, the Mets are competing for the divisional crown. All right, thank you guys so much for watching this video. Let me know down below what you think went wrong for the Mets. And if you're a baseball fan, let me know how you feel about what your team is doing this year. Inshallah, I will see you in the next chapter.